Welcome to today's class called Be Confident. Now, as is usually happens with my classes, anytime I get direction, inspiration, or revelation to have a theme for a class, my life gets pretty much turned upside down in preparation for that class. And I learn a lot of things. And so I'm so excited to share with you all where I started and where I'm going. And this story actually starts probably when I was about 11 years old. How do I want to explain this? I explained it really well the other day, so I'll go back to that. Public speaking has never been a thing for me. You put me in front of people and I am a happy person. I'm confident that whatever comes out of my mouth is going to turn out however it needs to turn out, and hopefully something will get something from it. Someone will get something from it. And so I've never had lack of confidence in that area. But I have had lack of confidence in sharing my innermost thoughts, in sharing my needs. I always figured that you just needed to learn to be self-sufficient, and figured that you just learned to take care of yourself the best that you could. And so I lived my life that way, and I lived my life just doing the best that I could and moving forward. And I loved helping people. My whole life, I have loved being able to help people. And that means, whether that means smiling at them, maybe that helps them laugh, doing dishes, any variety of things. I just always wanted to be engaged in helping someone feel better and to be better and to do better. And that was sort of my sticking point. That was sort of like, not my sticking point, but my standard point. Like, this is what I value about myself. I have value when I can help other people. And then I got married, and I saw my opportunities to help other people decrease. I was madly in love with my husband was madly in love with me, and there was also mental illness in our marriage. And I say mental illness because that's a pretty broad range. Sometimes that shows up as anxiety, sometimes that shows up as depression, sometimes that shows up in the variety. And for us, we had social anxiety, and so it was hard to go out as a couple and to do activities as a couple. And so I would often go and I would serve food at ward functions, different things like that. But sometimes I just needed to be home, and being home was where I needed to be. And so I found myself that I couldn't always volunteer like I used to because my priorities had changed, and I needed to be there for that person in my life. And then I realized something that really hurt. And that was my help couldn't guarantee that it would stay fixed. That I could do my absolute best, and it wasn't good enough. And it's only in the last few months that I've realized that that had nothing to do with me, and that had nothing to do with what I was doing. It was just the circumstances as they stood. And so that one part of myself, that one standard that I held to, that I had, was gone because the help that I was doing wasn't good enough. And so I started shutting down. I started not sharing my thoughts. I started not sharing what I needed because I kind of figured, what's the point? If I wasn't able to do this one thing for him, if I wasn't able to be there for him, why should I expect him to be there for me? Or make his burden harder by sharing what's going on with me? So I just stopped. And what I realized is that I stopped saying, but I didn't stop feeling.
Rosie, it's time to trade back.
But because I refused to speak my expectations could never be met. And this started going through every aspect of my life. This went into work. I wasn't sharing what was going on at work and the help that I needed at work. I wasn't sharing with family what I needed with family. And so I just crumpled in on myself. And I finally realized that I didn't have control to shut up how I was feeling. I only had control to say something or not. And me not saying something wasn't working. And so I got the guts up to start saying something. And in me sharing my need, in me sharing my voice, I also got my confidence back because I realized that my voice and my needs mattered. And that I could make a difference. Perhaps not in the way that I wanted to, or in the way that I thought that I should. But my voice and my perspective and my direction could mean something. And so I invite you guys to take a few minutes and ponder. Do you think that your voice, your needs, your realistic expectations matter? And how good are you at expressing them? How good are you at sharing them? Because the very first place that I want to start today is the sound of music. And you're like, huh, what? Travel with me for a minute. It's not the opening scene. It's not the second scene. I don't even think it's the third scene. But the fourth scene, Maria is being sent from the Abbey to go be a nanny with Captain Von Trapp. And she's afraid. I don't know of any of us who leaving the comforts of our comfort zone, and for her comfort zone was the walls of that Abbey. I don't know of any of us that leaving that place would have complete confidence that everything was going to be fine. But she sings a really beautiful song saying, I have confidence in sunshine. And I was listening to that song and I just was thinking about what that meant. What does that really mean? That after rain and after clouds, that the sun will shine again. That when we do something, we will get something in return. And what I realized is that if I never acted, I could guarantee I would never get a result. But if I acted and I did something, then I would get a result. I could not guarantee what the result would be, but I could guarantee something would change. Even if the only thing that changed was that I had more confidence in myself because I opened my mouth. The very first step that we have to take is opening our mouths and embracing the fact that we cannot control any other person's actions, what anybody else thinks. But that when we open our mouths and when we value ourselves, we can feel better about ourselves. So as I mentioned, I had shut myself off because I felt that I was a failure, and I didn't know I was a failure to a spouse that I couldn't help. I was a failure to a family that I could not explain what was going on with them. I had no idea how to explain why I always came alone. I had no idea how to explain what I saw and what I felt because it was brand new to me. And so I shut off and I shut down. Just figuring that as life got better, I'd never have to go back there again. I'd never have to revisit any of that. Because you build new, right? You're a fresh new person, so you don't have to go back to any of those old things. But I was at a family gathering last month, and actually it could have been the very beginning of this month. And I felt so alone, even though I was surrounded by people, because there was so much stuff that I had left unsaid. And there is so much stuff that I had just held on to, hoping it would just go away. And I also realized, though, that I could not keep going the way that I was. The way that I was tearing me up on the inside. I was teaching empowerment. I was learning so many powerful new things. But there was still the hurt alone girl inside of me that I was refusing to let out. And so at the end of the day, that's what I felt. And when I was with people, that's what I felt. And so I finally had the guts to open my mouth and to say something. And I did not get the emails back I was expecting. I did get some, and they were wonderful and they were lovely, but me opening my mouth, I knew that I could not have undue expectations of someone else. I knew that I could not say something with the expectation of the response that I wanted. My only expectation is that I would feel better because I had chosen to let go of something. And that is the basis of pretty much everything I'm going to talk about. I might go far afield, in fact I know I will because that's just me, but I am going to invite you to take a few minutes and just ponder on, you've had your moment to ponder. What is it that you value that you were afraid to share? I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, and generally, maybe this is just a me thing. I don't think it is. But I can be going along in my life and I can be proud of something I did. I can feel good about a moment where I had where everything lined up and everything was wonderful and I embraced that moment. And then all of a sudden this little voice in my head goes niggling along. It says, oh, but you shouldn't feel that way. That's prideful. Oh, you shouldn't listen to that because that's bad. That's wrong. That's not appropriate. That's not fair. And he crowds our minds all of a sudden with all of this comparison and all of this outside influence saying, oh no, you can't feel good about that. You can't embrace that because that makes you a bad person. And that makes you not good. Now, let's sit here for just a moment, and I want to talk about comparison for a second. Now, if our thoughts are indeed based in comparison, so you have that good thought about yourself, and then you immediately go, and that makes me so much better than this other person over here. Yeah, you got some problems. Because the only comparison that we should ever do is with our past self. The only comparison that we should ever live in is, this is where I used to be over here, and this is where I'm going. And in that beautiful moment, I just made it from A.1 to A.7. And I just got closer to my goal, and I just got closer to where I want to be. So if comparison is going to show up in your life, and I promise it shows up in everybody's life. So if comparison is showing up in your life, you redirect it. And you say, this is where I used to be. This is where I'm going. That is beautiful, wonderful, and appropriate comparison. On the other hand, pride is when you say, I just did this beautiful, wonderful thing, and this puts me up here, and this other person is down. That is when you definitely want to heed that voice that says, no, that's not good, and you don't want to do that. Never compare yourself to other people, because then you are setting yourself up for hurt and pain. I shouldn't say never, but I would just encourage you to not go there. This is dangerous and painful and setting up for all sorts of things that we face every day. But when you live in comparison and when you have that thought, so I'm trying to think of one of these thoughts that I had. I had just born my testimony. I was in a different sacrament meeting, not at home. I was at a baby blessing, and I had born my testimony. And I sat down feeling at complete peace with what I had said, and feeling so good about it. And this little voice came, oh, well, you can't say that about yourself. That's just wrong. And I went, why? Why can't I feel that way about myself? Why can't I claim the good things that I do? And you know what? The little niggling voice in my head went, well, I don't know. Never been asked that question before. Because I wasn't comparing myself to anybody else. I wasn't looking at what anybody else had said, how anybody else felt. I wasn't waiting for if people came after and said, oh, that was so good. It was me in that moment, in confidence, claiming what I had done, loving myself that I had listened and I had acted. And that was it. So the next step that I would invite you all to do is to take a few moments, and I want you to write down positive things you feel about yourself that you do not let yourself claim. That you're always a little afraid of. You always step back and you go, I can't really say that about myself. I don't want to be prideful, or I don't want to claim that because I just feel weird. We feel weird claiming good things about ourselves. It's because we live in a fallen world and negativity abounds. But what are some positive things that you do like about yourself that niggling voice shows up and tries to say something or be negative about something? And I want to start you off with this thought. The adversary eats away at the assurances that we should have the most confidence. So those assurances come in the form of, oh, I felt good about what I had shared in that testimony, or I felt good about an interaction that I had with someone. I felt like I had lifted them up and encouraged them, and I embraced that. So it is those kinds of things. What are good things that you feel you're doing that little voice comes and goes, you can't think that, you can't embrace that. He attacks them because those are the things that our confidence is based upon. The very confidence that gives us courage to act and to speak and to live the way we feel we should live is based on the positive things that the Lord gives us. Is based on the things that the universe gives us to say we are on the right track. We are doing the right things. For me, that was being able to help people. Knowing I was doing good. Knowing that I was reaching and interacting with something greater than myself. And so that's what the adversary attacked for me. That's what opposition attacked, was that I wasn't doing any good and that I didn't matter. And that is ultimately what closed my mouth. So take a few moments and think about what it is that you claim, what it is that you value, what it is that matters to you, and then we're going to go over what to do with that in just a minute.